What is up, everyone? Sorry if I was delayed a second or two. My computer decided to freeze during the theme, so I'm struggling. Welcome, guys. It's the House of Nerds show. It is Sunday. I am Lauren, your friendly neighborhood bye. We have over here Mr. Sergio, Insert Name Comics. What's up?
Good morning, everybody. How's it going?
We got Steve over here. What's up, Steve? Head of Toronto Comic Book Club. Wow, I can't talk.
Second take. Do it again.
Yep, we'll take it. So we got a great show for you today, of course. We have our guests here coming up in just a second. Real quick, I know some of y'all have been missing our week in review. Probably you missed it last week. We didn't do it, and this week we probably won't be able to do it in our live show, but we wanted to make sure we could do it for you guys because talking comics is our favorite thing. So hopefully we will have that video up for you guys, our week in review for the last 2 weeks on our channel tomorrow on Monday. So hang in there, guys. We're going to get that to you. Don't worry. We have not forgotten it. But without further ado, we have our guests for today. Sergio, who we have?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this, guys. We've got Julio Anta coming on in just a second. This one is, special for me, important. Been a big fan of Home since, they announced it way back. So we're super excited to have Julio Anta on, the writer of Home. He's got a bunch of mini comics out on his site. So I want everybody to give a warm welcome and good morning. Here we go.
What's up, Julio?
Hey, everyone.
What's going on, Julio? How you doing? Good morning.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Very good, man. Excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. We've been looking forward to this one,
Yeah, me too. It's good to put some faces to all the Twitter handles I see hyping Home. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely, man. There's been lots of hype with Home, lots of talk, lots of buzz regarding this. You got to be pretty amped about the success so far.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of love from people, a lot of really great reviews, a lot of people who, have been touched by the story, in one way or another, writing me with, their own immigration stories and telling me how much it means for them to see Latino characters in comics in a way that they maybe haven't before. So it's been great. It's been kind of a surreal experience.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. Speaking of success, Home #1 sold out, went to a second printing. Was that something that you envisioned, at the start of this journey for Home, or,
No, definitely not. I mean, I was very pleasantly surprised when an Image told me what the numbers were for the first issue. And then a few hours into the Wednesday that it came out, they emailed me. We had talked before. They were like, hey, it's probably a good idea to have another cover ready to go, just in case we do sell out. And I was like, okay, sure, we'll have one ready. And a few hours into Wednesday, they emailed me and they're like, you have that cover, right? We're going to second printing.
Oh, wow.
So it was amazing, I was already spending that whole day, running around to all the shops in New York, signing their copies the night before and the day of. And throughout it, seeing all the really positive reviews that we'd been getting, kind of streaming in throughout the day. And then this was kind of like the cherry on top, it was, like I said before, just surreal.
Yeah, that would feel awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the second printing cover because we're showing it right here. Do you know how this came about? Because I honestly love this idea. I love this idea of just taking the day, which it's so sunny, it's so vibrant and bright, and you feel it, you feel the heat of it all, and then turning it into night, and it changes the atmosphere of it. It changes everything of it.
Yeah,
Where did the idea to do it this way come from?
Mostly just practically, because they did, when I say that they asked us about a second cover, this was a week before the issue came out. So I was like, what's the quickest way that Lisa, who draws the cover A, can get us another cover without kind of going crazy doing it.
Yeah.
And I had the idea of just changing the scenery, just making it nighttime. And she just jumped on it. I think it was like a day or two later she had it done. So, it was more of like a practical thing, just have something quick.
You had
Yeah.
to go in that short notice. I love
Yeah.
it. I had to cop the second print. I think I might even prefer it over the
Same.
the
Oh, yeah?
I
first.
was gonna say, I like how it tends to capture a lot of the themes that Home tries to capture in terms of, people like to tell stories of, or I've seen, right, people telling stories of immigrants, like, wow, look at this empowering story, and it's like, but it's actually hard and it's dark and it's scary, it's terrifying, and this cover kind of seems to capture that a bit better for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think maybe as people who have read it already, this cover captures it better than kind of like the optimism that maybe some people go into the first issue with after seeing that first cover. But yeah, that's awesome to hear that you guys like it so much.
Yeah, I think it does add more to that like isolation that you really feel in that 1st issue. Something about like I love how this cover, the first cover, it's so vibrant and sunny and like it feels hopeful. But when you read the book, there's not a lot of hope in the first issue of the book. So I love
definitely not.
It feels like this cover, the original, is kind of like an oxymoron in a way. Like it clashes with the theme of the actual book. Like it sets up the reader for something a little bit happier, a little bit more of an adventure, and then what you get is like totally just different. It's a nice juxtaposition of the cover and the actual contents of the book. But then the night cover is just like flat out tells the reader, this is a darker story. You feel a little bit more alone, a little bit more isolated. Something about the coloring of it all, it makes you feel very different, and it feels more related to the contents of the book. At least to
definitely.
me.
No, I agree.
So Julio, we kind of got right into it, but why don't you let the people know a little bit about yourself, where you come from, your background, how you kind of got started into comics?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm in New York right now. Been here for the last 10 years, but I'm originally from Miami. My family is on one side Cuban refugees. My father came here when he was 3 years old from Cuba to Miami, and on the other side is Colombian. My mother was born here, but her parents were undocumented. And then I was born in Miami, which, like most people know, is a minority majority city. This was like the first time I left Miami was kind of a culture shock. Most places we all speak Spanish when we walk into stores, at school with all of my friends. So it's kind of a different world from, the rest of my experience in the US. But so that's kind of like the context that I come into the story of Home to, which for those of you who don't know, Home is a story about a young boy named Juan and his mother Mercedes who arrive at the southern border to claim asylum and are separated during the family separation policy. For me, that's obviously not my family's history. But I was, seeing family separation happen in early 2018 in the spring was a really tough experience for me to watch. Obviously, we were in a time period where Latinos were being villainized at every turn. It was a really dark time in, American politics. But then seeing that was kind of like, I come from a pretty, cynical view of the way that this country has treated immigrants in the past. But this, to me, separating children from their families as a form of deterrence was something that shocked me, even coming from that cynical mindset. So it kind of broke me when this happened. And I saw my father, who was 3, when he came to this country in the eyes of these kids. I saw my own son as a new father at the time in the eyes of these kids. And eventually when I had the idea for Home, I wanted to tell a story about family separation. So it was a lot of research that went into it because, like I said, that wasn't my family's experience. But, growing up hearing all of these stories from both sides of my family, from all of my friends growing up, friends from Venezuela, Ecuador, all over South America, I kind of just put all that into this story.
Right.
Yeah,
It
and
felt like at the end of Home. I forget where I read it. I might have actually read it in the comic. There was this idea that you had where you wanted it to be like a fusion of like a superhero type story, mixed in with realist, politically driven, emotional story, and it was a fusion of the two. Um, what was the idea around wanting to have those superpowers, like that element added to the story? Because you very well could have just done like a straight up emotional, character driven story just focused on Juan and his mom, without the
Yeah.
powers, and had it be more grounded, and maybe it would have hit harder. But what was the idea about having that fusion between the two?
Yeah, it's I wanted to bring more readers into the story. I don't think that this book would have been as successful as it has been, or as many people reading it, if it didn't have that twist to it. I wanted to tell a story about family separation. I wanted to kind of show people, because everything in the book, with the exception of the superhuman abilities, it's all real.
Yeah.
It's all based off of real accounts.
yeah,
The mother breastfeeding her child and being separated from her child while she's breastfeeding. The father and son being coerced to go into like health screenings and then never seeing each other again. These are all real accounts of things that happened. And I kind of just wanted to show people what happened. But I also wanted to show as many people as possible, especially in the direct market, which is, more so than the book market, a place where we very rarely see Latino characters, Latino creators, and these kinds of stories. So that was definitely the superhuman element to it, was definitely a way to to kind of grab people, and then also use that as a metaphor, the same way that superhuman abilities have almost always been a metaphor for migration and feeling alone and not knowing how to control what's going on in your environment.
yeah, and with those themes, you in a lot of your stories, whether it's Home or your mini comics, heavy on the social commentary. You've got themes of racism, racial bias, institutional kind of biases, heavy-handed police forces, sexism. Um, was this kind of born out of what kind of made you decide to lean towards social commentary in art and comics, and what makes art as a medium work so well for these type of stories for you?
Yeah. Nina Simone famously said that art should be a reflection of our times. And I say that not to, begrudge any other creator who doesn't use, their art to speak to anything real, and they just want to create, entertaining content. That's, I watch plenty of shows that have no social commentary and are just for fun. But for me, when if I'm making comics is hard, especially starting off in comics. So if I'm going to dedicate and devote all this time to, making these books and finding artists and finding publishers and going through this whole thing, I want it to be work that says something. I want it to be work that, at the end of the day, when people finish reading it, maybe it's shown them a perspective that they weren't aware of before. Maybe it's shown them a reality that they've never been able to experience themselves. And to answer your second question, I think that's what's so great about art. It can bring us into these worlds that we've never experienced before. I think about certain shows that have kind of changed the cultural narrative about certain things. A show like Transparent, for example, like that changed the way that a lot of people perceived trans people. I think that with comics, the same way as any other medium, whether it's books or movies or TV shows, Latinos are completely underrepresented. Underrepresented and misrepresented too, because it's a lot of stereotypes. It's a lot of the drug dealers, the criminals, the housekeeper. A lot of characters that, at least in the presentation of them, don't have a lot of dignity, don't have a lot of agency. So for me, when I decided that I was going to make comics, I knew that I wanted to, represent my community in a positive way. And hopefully, like I said before, open people's eyes to a reality that they might not be aware of before reading the comic.
That's one of the beautiful things about Home and your other works is, as a Latino myself, I don't see a lot of these kind of stories, especially in this medium in comics, if at all. So I latched on to Home immediately. One, because it's a representation of our people, and it's something that, like you said, if you see a Latino in media, it's as the the drug pusher or the banger or the over sexualized female, right? So it's refreshing to see minorities represented in something other than how they normally are in mainstream media, and then clearly you're touching on real world issues that's important, and you're giving a voice to these people, these situations that maybe normally a comic reader would not even be aware of. And I think that's resonating. One of the reasons why Home is resonating with so many people, whether you are Latino or any other minority or race or white, whatever you may be. It's a story that resonates. It's got a lot of heart, a lot of emotions. I know when I read Home #1 and even Home #2, there was a few times I was moved almost to the point of tears at one point, to be honest. I went through anger, frustration in Home, to hope at the end, right? When Juan, these emerging superpowers, we as the reader, we find out, and it was almost like I think I might have literally kind of just did a fist pump in the air. And
I mean, clearly I can't speak on what meant to me representation wise, but I felt the same with the super element. Like I liked that twist at the end because kind of like you're saying, Julio, like a lot of that issue is real and it feels like hope's taken away. And I imagine as a writer, it's hard because you can only take away hope so much until you kind of have to give something back to the reader. I kind of feel like, I don't know if that's how you felt similar, but that really did a service in terms of keeping the reader going, hey, look, here's this fantastical element that even though this is still real, I still want to see what happens because maybe there's still some hope.
Yeah, and not just for the reader, but for me too. Like writing this was really difficult. Listening to interviews with families, watching videos, like all of the research that I did, to create this was really hard on me. I mean, to Sergio's point, like I've heard a lot of people say, that they were, that they cried or, how moved they were, watching this story, watching Juan and Mercedes, their story play out. And like, it was even more emotional for me writing it, so it was, the later issues are definitely easier to write when, there is more hope and there is more, I guess without spoiling anything, just like characters taking things into their own hands as opposed to being the ones who are, being victimized the entire time. Right. But the first issue was by far the most difficult to write. And it was initially much longer. So, it was, and also, the whole process of pitching this book and talking to publishers and trying to find a place to release this book was, I lived with that first issue for quite some time. Yeah. And it wasn't until it was picked up that I got to, write the other issues that were a lot easier for me.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely shows. I mean, I just want to show you, Julio, because we got some comments here that are praising you, saying, it seems like we research. I've seen some near-mind criticism online of the story. This is a great way to teach both adults and even children. So, you're not only creating something to entertain, but you're also helping educate other people, which is fantastic. And, you know, we got another one saying, you know, as a Peruvian, I'm tired of seeing Latinos misrepresented in mainstream media.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
cool
Nice.
that,
Thank you,
you know,
Oscar.
even though people, are from different places, it's resonating with them. So
Definitely.
you're successful, Julio, you know, and I'm glad the numbers are showing it too.
Yeah,
We have
definitely.
a question here from Ruben Gomez asking, how do you decide what kind of power to give Juan? Is it symbolic?
Yeah. So I wanted his powers to show how out of control his life is at that moment. You know, the situations that lead to his mother taking him on a months-long journey to the U.S. Juan has no control over that. The fact that they're separated, he has no control over. And then with his superhuman abilities, I wanted superpowers that would show how out of control he is. So those, you know, that burst of like fiery energy, to me was a way to show like I'm out of control. I'm also angry at everything that's happening. So it was definitely, you know, I was trying to find, and initially I didn't know what his power would be, but I wanted it to be something that would show up on the page that would show a like a physical representation to what he's feeling inside.
Yeah. And you know, speaking of like the physical representation, I gotta say I'm a fan of the artwork for this story. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Anna
Weiss-Check.
Weiss-Check. Okay. How did you connect with her and even Hassan? I've noticed that you seem to work with him on all your stories. So how did you connect, and how did it all come together?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is probably not a typical answer to this question for an image book, but I found Anna on Reddit.
Okay.
You know, there's a subreddit where I think it's called Comic Book Collabs, where you can like post kind of like a almost like a classifieds ad kind of thing. Like, this is the story I want to tell. This is the kind of art I want. Does anybody want to work on it with me? And you know, that was my first experience with, you know, kind of like the negative pushback that I would continue to see over this series, you know, up until, you know, now, and I'm sure throughout the course of it. But Anna was one of the people who reached out. And what I love about her art style is that it, you know, this is a very, especially in the first issue, a very dark, grounded story at times. And I think that her art style being more stylized makes it a bit more, I guess, easier for people to visually read the whole thing, without having to stop and, you know, like take things in a little too much. So I found her there. Hassan, he's somebody that I've worked with on literally every project that I've done.
I know how your minis.
Yeah, and I initially found him because I was a fan of his. He has a web magazine called Panel X Panel, and he has a YouTube channel called Strip Panel Naked, where he kind of like breaks down, you know, why certain comics work, you know, like little things like why this lettering guides your eye. I'd recommend anybody who's watching to check it out. And then Brian Valenza, he's somebody that I literally was just, I didn't have a colorist, and I was just looking on Twitter, you know, at like anytime people post like that they're looking to hire a colorist. I was kind of like scrolling through everybody. And eventually I found Brian, and I thought that the way that he colored it was a really good counterbalance to Anna's more stylized art to ground it a little bit more. And honestly, I mean, it's not just because it's my book, but it's my favorite of Anna's art from any of the other books she's done. And I think a big part of that is the way that Brian colored it.
For sure. Yeah. And I like how it does, in a sense, it makes the content, especially with issue number 1, I think maybe more easily digestible for people. There's the contrast in what the story is, and then the style of the art. But I love how, you know, the emotion, the expression on the characters' faces, it comes through like big time with that art. You know, you see the pain, you see the fear, you know, on these characters. So I think it works out perfectly.
Definitely.
a comment from one of the people in the chats. They can't see the art any other style now with home, right? So
Yeah.
it's working. Julio, what upcoming works do you have? I know you've got Frontera coming out and Si Se Puede.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about those projects that you've got.
Yeah, definitely. So Frontera is a YA graphic novel. I'm doing that book with Jacoby Salcedo. He's an artist that I've done, a few mini comics with. He's become he's become one of my best friends at this point. We're really frequent collaborators. I met him doing The Price of Freedom, that mini comic. Kind of like what I said with Brian, I was just looking on Twitter for artists, and I found him and reached out to him. And we worked on that one. We worked on 2 other mini comics, Between Two Worlds and Balseros. And we created a pitch for this graphic novel, which is about a 16-year-old boy who was deported. He didn't know that he was undocumented when he was deported, and then essentially his parents financed for him to go back across the border, to go back home to Arizona. And while he's on this trip, he meets the ghost of another migrant who had died half a century earlier under similar circumstances. And they form this bond, and it's kind of a way to show that even though politics, policies, technology, all sorts of things change around us, there's a lot of threads that we can draw from the experiences that somebody has immigrating in 2021 to 50 years prior, because of the history of immigration in this country. So that's what that book is about. It's YA, so it's designed for kids, kind of 13 to 17. It's going to be published by Harper Alley, which is a YA imprint of HarperCollins.
Okay.
And then Si Se Puede is another book, and I'm doing this one with Yasmin Montañez. And this is if any of you guys have read some nonfiction graphic novels like The Black Panther Party, it's with that same publisher, 10 Speed Press. And it's an adult nonfiction graphic novel about essentially highlighting the Latino heroes throughout American history. So in this image, you see Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez, which are some of our most known activists, but we'll cover a lot of pop culture. We'll cover the Hispanic Union soldiers of the Civil War. We'll cover Elena Ochoa, the first Latina to go into space.
Wow.
Every chapter is essentially a different kind of thing. So the first chapter is about the Civil War and the Latinos who fought in the Civil War. The second chapter is about Cesar and Dolores. We also talk about Clemente and how he influenced baseball. And essentially, it's designed for adults, but it's for all ages. And yeah, so those are the 2 books that I can talk about now that have been announced. But the thing about comics is that it takes so long, like I mentioned. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of other projects that are in different kind of stages of development that
I was gonna say, you said those are the 2 you can talk about now, so that means you've got at least 5 more in the works that we don't know about yet.
Yeah, I got a bunch.
Looking forward to maybe some teasers down the line, some news on your upcoming works. Absolutely.
Yeah. And since we have still some more time, I wanted to go more into your mini comics, Julia, because we've talked a lot about home, which is the current thing that's really gotten you more attention, and rightfully so. But man, we were talking earlier about just before we started the show, your mini comics are different, different tone to a lot of them, like you said, more violent, darker, but and even harsher on their social commentary. So I can imagine if somebody tried to chew out home saying it's too social or too political, they couldn't handle your other stuff. You really go there in your others. Home kind of dials it down, I would honestly argue. And we talked a lot about how you've talked about Latino representation, and Sergio mentioned how you also really cover a lot of other representation. Like you talk about sexism and things like that. And you're clearly not a woman. What makes you want to comment on so many different things? Like you don't just pick only one thing to comment on when it comes to social or political issues. You cover a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, I said this once before in, another interview, but I'll say it here too. Most of the things that I write about are inherently things that make me angry, and this is my way of kind of like venting out these feelings that I have on it. So the one that I think you were referring to, Unbow Your Head,
Yes.
that pretty much started off as a book where I was like, you know I there's a lot of things in all of these books are grounded, and they're based off of, again, not this story is not a real story, but it's grounded in real people and situations. And in this one, I was seeing all of the, not just racism but misogyny from groups like the Proud Boys. And if you're aware of them at all, you'll notice that the antagonist in this issue is wearing one of their Fred Perry polos.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's in black and gray, so you don't catch the colors of it. But I was really struck, not just by when that group was kind of coming into prominence, not just the nationalism and xenophobia behind it, but also the fact that they describe themselves as chauvinists. And I kind of wanted, frankly, I wanted to make a comic where a woman just like beat the shit out of a Proud Boy, and this
it
was
was
kind
great.
of my, yeah, and this was kind of my way into it.
I mean, so for those that haven't read this yet, and many of your other shorts, they're available on your website. Can you plug that for people to know where they can go find it?
Yeah, so it's just my name, julioanta.com.
Yeah.
Well, that's the website, not my name. But they're all free. They're all free. You can just read them there. And that's how I started making comics. I just started hitting up artists and making these comics, kind of for myself as a way to vent, but also as a way to kind of hone in on the craft. And also because home was my first idea. And I knew that I wanted it to be something that was at a real publisher. So part of that also was being able to show publishers like Image that this isn't the first thing that I've made. I can see a project through. So doing these mini comics was a way to kind of like build a portfolio in a sense too.
Yeah. So yeah, for other fellow comic readers, definitely go to the website. Check out. They're all free, right? They're all free.
Yep.
Many of the short stories are between 4 to 8 to 12 pages long. There's 5 or 6 short stories on there.
There's 5.
Yeah. And so a lot of them, what we talked about before, as Lauren mentioned, a lot of them have like very much the same kind of theme to them. It's very politically and socially charged. But on Bow Your Head, I don't want to spoil anything for other readers. Definitely check this one out specifically, because
if you're a fan of twists, like Julio, like this is the one so far that had the biggest twist. Like we talked about earlier with you before the show, the last page, the last panel, honestly, of this entire issue. Like, how did you come about that one in terms of making the final decision on the perspective of the protagonist?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this when talking about Juan and Home. Giving characters dignity and agency is the most important thing, I think, for the work that I do, especially because oftentimes you see these characters in the things that I write at their lowest points. You see them suffering, you see them traumatized, and for a lot of people, especially if they relate to the identity of these characters, it can be a triggering thing almost. To see this, to see these characters victimized and, suffering through all this. So I think the most important thing when showing these aspects that are important, it's important to see Juan and Mercedes and Home suffering through family separation, in a way that is not, like emotional porn or anything like that. And the way that I think makes it not okay, but makes it serve its purpose is that these characters have dignity, and these characters are fully realized. So with Unbow Your Head, I wanted it to be more than just a woman dealing with harassment and deciding that she's had enough and that she's going to fight back. I wanted it to be this Latina woman who this is not her first time. This is she hit her breaking point a long time ago, and now she's taking her life into her own hands.
Do you find that ending though? It changes the perspective of the character? Because I don't see her as a hero anymore. I don't necessarily see her as a victim anymore because of that. The last few panels that they show, it shows to me that she's more than that side of things. She's more than just a victim. Because at a certain point, some of the stuff that she does, I don't like. It's
you realize
right.
Yeah, I mean, you realize within the first few pages that she's kind of an unreliable narrator, right?
Yeah.
When because the narration is the interrogation. Yeah, I think that with her, like, I definitely wrote her as a hero. I definitely see her as a hero. Because she's not going out there and finding unsuspecting men.
Right.
She is,
whenever
she is harassed.
Well, hold on though, because I think I'm with the character being like a victim and hero at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
The certain point for me changes when the knife ends up being in her hands. She has the ability to leave the situation, run away. You could de-escalate the situation from there.
Mm-hmm.
This situation for her, it's done. Like between them, it's kind of done. The point where she takes it further, to me, is no longer a hero or a victim. Because now
you're not an Elektra fan, clearly, because
no, okay, so it's different with like
it was murder, but not a crime.
No, so for me, I mean, it was a crime. For me, like the Elektra comparison's a bit different for me because I think with the Elektra and the Marvel characters, I know the world. It's all just a fantasy world. But for Unbow Your Head, the realistic elements of it make it more real to me. It makes it more grounded. It makes it like elements of that story have happened to a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think those elements of that story for me are what changes the character than an Elektra to me. She's not a fictional character at this point. She could be a real person. Mm-hmm. And I think in this kind of grounded story, for her to have the chance to actually leave, to de-escalate the situation, get out, she's proven her point. She's beaten him. She's done it. She could leave. Where she then takes it further at that point, to me, she's no longer a victim because what she does is it's more than once. It's not self-defense. She's got markers like.
Steve, you're really huffy about this ending with her. Wow, we need to have a full discussion about this later.
I really like this story. Because this, in terms of all the shorts that I read, in terms of home, that Unbow Your Head is the one that actually it gave me like an emotional feeling, and it's because I think it's that turn. I think it's because it's so grounded that I could see it all happening. And I think I love the shift of perspective. I love the shift in terms of my view. You've changed my view of that character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, she's unreliable, and then you do see the full story, and like what happens. I don't know. I'm always about the idea that people can be better, and like I don't know. Our prison system here is all about like rehabilitation and not punishment. And I always hope everyone can eventually become a better person. But what she does makes that impossible.
Deep breath, Steve. I think the emotional reaction you have is exactly what he was. That's part of him doing his job.
So I'll say this first. So first, a quick correction because she never has the knife.
You're right.
He at the end of it, he goes to
somebody
stab
pointed
her.
out in the chat too. You're right, Julio.
He goes to stab her, and she stops it, and while it's still in his hand, turns it back on him. So. Maybe this is the difference in the Canadian perspective and the American perspective, where at least we might say that our prison system is about rehabilitation. It's more about punishment. And look, if let's imagine a real person like this guy, right? Let's forget like the thing I said about him being a proud boy. Like that's not totally important to reading it. Or to being the woman in that situation. Like that doesn't make any difference if you're that person, right? If you're somebody who's willing to pull a knife on a woman because she, back talked you or didn't like take to your advances, that's probably not the last time that
Yeah.
person's going to do it.
Yeah.
And that might not even be the first time that person's done it.
Most likely it's not the
so-
first time.
Yeah. So for me,
Right,
like
yeah.
from my perspective, like assuming that this is all real, right? You know, I think the world is probably a better place after that, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
And
With
I
you,
think that's what's so
sometimes
interesting.
You gotta serve some justice, right?
yeah.
A little bit of street justice. I don't have any issue with it. I was hyped to see her take matters into her own hands, and definitely shocked at that last panel. But
Yeah, I think that last panel is what kind of changes everything. Because like to me, it's like one time it happens, that's a different story. 'Cause like you said, it's a struggle. She's in this fight. There is a self-defense in that.
You have the perspective, Steve, that I was afraid a lot of men would have after that last panel. That's why it's gonna be hard for me to discuss with others, because I'm like,
I mean, that last
I'm gonna have
panel,
to try to fight that.
it's very. I love it. I love the turn. How did I love it so much?
Well, I'll say one last thing on it, and maybe Lauren can relate to this. You know, my wife, like living here in New York, where you know it's not explicit, but that's where that mini comic is based in.
Mhm.
You know, my wife, it's a constant thing. You know, of guys catcalling her, guys making comments. You know, and I think a lot of women learn to deflect. You know, and do what they need to say, you know, sometimes maybe with some shame and like smiling at it or, you know, whatever to survive the situation, because you never know how some random stranger is going to react, you know. So with the character in this mini comic, to me, it's somebody who has experienced that probably her entire adult life, maybe even as a child, because that's also a thing that happens on the street. And has not gone out and just started murdering, you know, random guys who say something to her. But, you know, maybe now she's not smiling. Maybe now she's not being polite and thinking about her own survival. Maybe now she's just deciding to let things play out. And if they play out in that way, then taking it that final step, you know. And that's what I think that final panel shows, that she's because when you watch what's happening, you know, reliable narrator or not, we're watching what happened. You know, she didn't instigate this situation at all. You know, she didn't pull out her own knife and kill him. You know, she let him do what he was going to do, and she reacted by being more skilled than he was.
I mean, and I would almost argue she reacted how, like, if you know, it was some dude doing it to another dude, like, reacted how men can, right? Men, again, he lashed out at her. Other men react violently. So is she really in the wrong? You know, and like you said, she didn't instigate. She just reacted in well, I'm not putting up with it kind of way. And she didn't throw the first hand. She didn't throw the first punch. And so, it was incredibly well written. And clearly you made a moment there. And, you know, there's other minis you have that make good moments like that. Like Sergio, which was the one, the father one you really talked about, the one that hit you as a father hard?
I think I believe it was the Price of Freedom. Where the son is killed by a cop, right? A young Latino man is you know, just walking down the street, and like you hear so many times, way too often in the news, you know, you got these brown and these black boys, you know, being murdered by you know, heavy-handed cops, right? What resonated with me in particular, you know, I'm a father of two boys, 11 and 18, so, you know, somewhere around the age, I'm guessing, of the young man in the story. And, you know, watching these events, you know, time and time again on the news, I've definitely been in the position of the father sitting there wondering what my reaction would be if this were to happen to my child. And
that's exactly where it came from.
I gotta tell you, Julio, how the father, you know, Imagine reacted in the story. I was right there the whole way. I don't think I'd react any differently, to be honest. You know, it's difficult to talk about, man, because this something that's happening way too often. So there's a lot of anger, a lot of frustration out there, but it's a powerful story. I'll leave it at that, and I'm gonna tell everybody, please guys, please check out julioanta.com and check out these minis, because there's some really fantastic, powerful writing. It's gonna it's clearly gonna affect everybody in some way, shape, or form, and it's gonna leave a lasting impression on you guys. I guarantee you that. So
Sergio, I mean, you're not the only one. The chat's gone off mentioning Price of Freedom also hit them kind of hard in terms of things that they'll have to talk about with their kids. And I think that's something that's kind of relatable with a lot of your work, in the sense of home, in the sense of like the Price of Freedom. A lot of it seems like it can be a conversation or something that can be for children to have in a way. Like home is something that I find, even the artwork, the way it's approached, it's a little bit more kind of cartoony, and so to me it seems a lot more approachable for kids to kind of dissect what's actually going on, for them to understand as well. Is there an intent for that too?
Definitely, yeah. All of these stories that I write, I definitely want people to come away with it with some knowledge that they didn't have, whether even if it's like, oh wow, this happens, or I didn't know these details of it. Ultimately, I would hope that people come away with much more than that, which is the ability to to empathize with these characters, and in that way empathize with the real people that experience these things. I mean, there's hundreds, thousands of fathers, around the country right now who have lost their children to police violence, and with the Price of Freedom in particular, that was a story that came out of a conversation that I've had multiple times with coworkers of all races, not just Black and Latino, of like, what would I do if this happened? How would I feel if this happened? And that was kind of like the kickoff point for the Price of Freedom, like that question of what would I do? How far would I take it if, some cop killed my kid, But yeah, definitely, all of the stories are a way to try to, educate people to things that they might not know about, or that they maybe weren't able to empathize with when they just saw like a newsreel about it or a tweet about it. Now that they're able to like experience a story with characters, maybe things will change. That's my most optimistic version of what the comic could do. But yeah.
So the Price of Freedom deals with a cop, police brutality, and ended up murdering the kid. Yeah. On the other side of the fence, you've got another short story called Sincerely Agent. I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation.
Mejia.
There you go. The chat's also kind of spoken about this one, because I find it really interesting that you're looking kind of on the other side of the fence in terms of perspective, because now you are dealing with a protagonist that is a cop, that is dealing out this, or I'm not saying dealing out, but would then eventually be on that other side of things, right? So what was it that caused you to want to tell the story from this perspective?
Yeah, it was finding out that over 50% of ICE agents are Latino.
Wow.
So that was what started this story. I read that, and then I started reading more, and like the recruitment efforts that organizations like ICE do in the community. Border Patrol has, there's a little bit of a tangent. They have like an ROTC style program for young kids to try to get them into being Border Patrol agents. So it was learning that fact and then thinking, okay, how would somebody, so a little bit of context also, which I go into in the story, is that ICE's operations are not completely deportations and removals. At least it wasn't pre-Trump. The mandate that, I'll just say this here because a lot, the people who are critical of home, this is kind of like their go-to thing, which is like, why does this book take place in the Trump era? What about Obama? What about Biden? I have a lot of criticisms over the way that Obama treated immigrants and deportations. He's, on record as the president that deported the most amount of people from the country. But during the Obama administration, ICE's mandate was to deport people with criminal records, essentially. And ICE also participated in a lot of, child trafficking efforts, sex trafficking efforts to kind of find and break up these, these networks, I guess, of people that were trafficking in humans and exploiting them. I'm not talking about like paying somebody to get you across the border. I'm talking about like criminally selling people into sex slavery, that kind of thing. Right. And that was a big part of what ICE did. When Trump came into office, he changed ICE's mandate into deporting as many people as possible. And that was it cut into a lot of the work that they were doing with sex crimes. Right. So that's who this character is. So I was thinking about how would somebody who has a moral mindset react to seeing a change in mandate under the Trump administration to not just deporting, criminals, which there's a whole conversation about that also. Yeah, but at the very least, you could say people that, messed up and committed a crime, however small that might be. You can say, okay, well, they did something wrong, so we're going to deport them, right? How might someone who's morally minded react to now just deporting any single person you can catch? And that's who this character was. He's the character who started off in the sex crimes unit, breaking up child trafficking. And then his unit is disbanded after the Trump administration comes into power. And now all he's doing is deporting people. And that weighs heavy on him. He is the child of formerly undocumented immigrants. Yeah. He sees his family in the eyes of these people as he's going to a school and deporting a father as he drops off his kid at school, deporting people as they pay tickets at a courthouse. Again, all of these things are real things that have happened in the U.S. So that's pretty much where that story came from.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite right after just the struggle of this man trying to reconcile these two, being a Latino and being an agent of this government who were just kicking out by any means necessary. Yep. These people, right? Like you said, the mandate changed, right? They were doing some good, right? Sex trafficking, all that stuff, versus just we're gonna get you guys out of here, right? So that's another powerful story. Again, you guys check it out. Before you get out of here, Julio, where can all the good people find you? Where can they hit you up? Where can they send you, all the great things that they have to say about your works?
Sure. Yeah. Twitter, Instagram, same handle at Julio Anta. And my website, julioanta.com. I'll also say for anybody watching live, this Monday is the last day to pre-order Home Number 3.
Yes.
So if you want to get a copy of that, definitely let your comic shop know. We have cover A from Lisa Sturl. As always, she does all the cover A's. And Jacoby Salcedo, who I mentioned before, who did The Price of Freedom with me and is doing Frontera with me. He has cover B on all the issues. So definitely pre-order. Second printing of the first issue and now the first printing of the second issue are both out. And if you're into it, pre-order number 3.
Absolutely. Yes. You got to get issue 2 and 3, to those second printing as well. Get that extra cover. And Julio, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Julio.
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for all the I see you guys on social media promoting the book. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
it's our pleasure. Necessary, required reading, something important. So We're always happy to push the quality books that are out there. Thank you so much, Julio, and we hope to have you on again sometime in the future.
Definitely.
Yes,
Be
because you're
happy
gonna have
to.
so much more out, and it's
Yeah.
going to be phenomenal. Like I can't get enough of everything you're writing, because I thought
Thank
Home
you.
was good, and then I got into mini comics. And I was like, oh my gosh! So I'm really excited to see all you do. Thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you.
We love having you on here. Just to let you know before you go, you got a bunch of people in the chat saying they've got theirs ordered. They're trying to decide which cover for 3. Get both cowards. Get both.
Both.
Whatever you cover.
Always the
Thank
answer,
you,
both.
everyone.
But yes, have a great one, Julio. Thank you for all the time you gave us and the
Yes.
people in the chat. We really appreciate it.
You too. Have a good Sunday, everyone. Bye.
Have a great one.
Bye.
Ciao.
All
Okay.
right. Well, that was Julio Anta. As he said, don't forget, home number 3 final order cutoff is tomorrow. So that means it's the last chance you have to guarantee yourselves a copy. Hopefully they'll sell out and we'll get some more second printings. That's what I'm hoping.
I'm
But
curious.
we'll just have to
second
see.
printing-
So
I'm curious on what the second printings will look like for issue 3 and possibly issue 4, because that the dynamic lighting change for issue 1 works so well, but I'm not sure how well you could pull that off in the other issues.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what those covers will end up being.
Well, I think with the variant for issue 1, he was saying that was just kind of born out of the necessity. They were short on time, so they changed that up. But maybe they'll have something like a fresh new cover. For a second.
Yeah, absolutely. The that cover for 3, those blues with the orange. As much as I hate orange as a color, blue and orange go so well together. Like they really are complementary colors. So
And
very.
there's also issue 4 that we've got too in terms of covers. Very
Yes.
Mhm.
That 4, I like the motion there. It looks like we're gonna get a lot more in the superhero stuff, which is very exciting. So I'm interested to see how that ties in and all that cool stuff. So yeah, guys, pick that up. Make sure you order it so you're guaranteed a copy. Also, the more orders that get in early, the more likely it is to get sold out and go to another printing. And we would love to do that. So let's do it. We got
Absolutely.
that.
Ruben Gomez is asking in the chat, did number 2 go to a second printing? No,
I don't think
I
it
don't
is.
think so.
hasn't been announced yet, but pick up. That's what we got to get everybody to pick
The
up.
earlier we get orders in and we order like crazy, the more likely it'll go to a second printing pretty quickly. So yeah, let's hype it up on social media. I know a lot of us are quieter on Twitter. Some of us common people like to be in our own head. But feel free to get up and hype it up, because it really does a lot for these creators. And Julio's so great about being so appreciative, and he's so gracious. So let's hype up good creators like him.
And honestly, guys, I know we already said it in when we had him just a second ago, but sincerely, check out those mini comics, man.
Yeah.
They're so good.
They're
Absolutely
very-
blew me away.
they're
Quick
free
read, but
too.
they hit you.
Blown away. They're just
See
powerful.
why Steve's falling apart. You have to read them to see why
They're
his
so
head's
good.
breaking.
I didn't honestly. Okay, because it's no news that when we did Home, I wasn't as favorable to it as you two were. Like I was still.
Yeah, because you're a coward. Okay.
I was on the fence between copying or dropping, because I think it will be a powerful story in terms of a trade. But the minis, definitely check out his website. They're free. They'll take you 5 minutes to read, but in those 5 minutes for each of those, it's powerful.
Oh my God, we forgot. So we actually, so we're hoping that eventually, and Julio briefly chatted with us, but not to say too much, but the minis, hopefully one day we can get a trade or something of them. Because if you guys check them out on the website, guys, I would love to have those in my hands. Just be able to physically see them on page. I'm one of those people that I can read stuff online, but it makes all the difference to have in my hand. So
I think I prefer them personally. I think I prefer them more than Home, to be honest.
Honestly, he can tell a story quick and well. He's one of those writers that can be so concise but still tell exactly what he means and hit just as hard. I can't. I'm a fluffy writer if I ever try to write. I don't know if people read my reviews, but I'm fluffy. He was concise to the point while still being detailed. Phenomenal.
Those mini comics, they cap out at 8 pages, right? And the emotions that you go through in just those few pages there is good stuff. So check him out, man.
Yes.
He did mention to us before we went on air that there's a chance that they'll collect the minis in like a trade format or something. And
so if you're not already following him on Twitter and Instagram and all that, make sure you're doing that, because if there's ever a Kickstarter that comes up or something for this trade, everybody needs to give money, because I'll do it.
Yeah.
But if I have to pledge money and nobody else does, I'm gonna be really pissed off. Like, I need those. So let's make it happen. For the rest of the show, we've got an advanced review of an issue coming out. I'll say what it is in a second, and then we're gonna do Copper Drop. And then, like I said earlier, tomorrow we are going to release a video on our channel with week in review for the last 2 weeks. So I know a lot of you guys really like that, and we love doing that with you. But we also wanted to have some time with some creators. So we're going to give you that week in review tomorrow on our channel on Monday. And then we going to do Copper Drop. And then after that, we have another quick announcement, but it's a big one.
Surprise announcement.
So stick around for the last second. I know we keep doing this to y'all at the last second, but like, I promise it's worth it. Like, so good. So
I've been biting my tongue since we booked this.
And this is on biting, right?
Man,
you're not good at keeping secrets, Sergio. So
I'm terrible.
Sergio wanted to announce it earlier, and Steve and I had to tell him, you can't do it too soon. You can't. But I'm anxious too, because it's something I love as well. But we're going to talk about an advanced copy of a comic we got. And it is the Blue Flame #1. Sergio in particular is very hype about it. I read it. Steve, you read it, right?
I did, absolutely.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
We mix up coordinating. So we all read it, which is fantastic. It's definitely something. Let me tell you, I have thoughts. Sergio, I want you to kick it off though, because you were really hype about this, and you still are hype about it.
Oh yeah, man. Adam Gorham, one of my favorite artists. He's a local guy too. He lives just outside of the city of Toronto. So when they announced this a while back, I was like pretty much all in before I even read a panel. And then we got the advanced copy. It feels like a couple months ago now.
Yeah.
It's a great it's a fantastic first issue, guys. You've got I think you've got like 3 different stories going on.
3 or 4. It's
there's so much. That was one thing for me. I was like, I wanted like 2. I didn't need the others, but it's good. There's good stuff in it for sure.
The intergalactic kind of space.
That's what I like the most.
So that kind of reminded me of like a Marvel Nova Corps or like a Green Lantern Corps type thing.
Yeah.
You see that? Yeah.
But I think
yeah.
The other aspects, I don't know, maybe like they felt out of place in some parts when we went from here to like some of the other perspectives and what's going on in the story. It was kind of jarring because it's like, I don't know these characters. I had the question at the end where it's like, we read Shadow Man a couple weeks ago, and Shadow Man, #1, it was already an established property, so it didn't really feel like a new #1 because you had all the lore. Reading the Blue Flame, I kind of felt the same. I like at the end of it, I'm like, is there some stuff that happened like prior to this being released?
I felt the same because, so again, there's kind of a lot of different things happening here. The beginning of it felt like a new #1, like the beginning with the intergalactic stuff.
Absolutely.
And again, we're not doing spoilers, obviously, it's advanced review and all that, but the beginning had a very Green Lantern, like you said, Nova Corps, but also Star Wars feel to it, and a positive Star Wars feel, not like a lot of people, the fandom on the internet we're all tired of. But it had such a cool feel to it. It reminded me of Return of the Jedi, like the moment where he gets to the planet, like Luke gets to Tatooine and stuff. It was so cool. And then there's a lot of other elements that deal with, being on Earth and real people. And I was kind of thrown off by it. But I gotta say, like, as a #1, even though there were parts, I agree with you, Steve, where it kind of felt like it was an established universe. There's also parts where I'm like, but there's things I need to connect. Like, I can actually go back and say, in future issues, I believe things will connect.
So
it's going to take time, but I think
planted seeds. Are they good seeds for you to kind of?
There's seeds that I think will connect. I'm hoping, and so that's why for me, I still really enjoyed reading this, because even though it wasn't like the best #1 I've ever read or anything, it still has great seeds that once these connections are hopefully made in future issues, it's gonna knock my socks off. Like, it's gonna be great.
So you guys
yeah.
basically you don't like any. You want all your answers or all your questions answered in issue number.
No, not at all.
This is because this is
No, but
No.
there's too many misconnections. That's the
Yeah.
thing. So I have the questions about space, then there's the Earth, then there's the team, then there's this, without giving spoilers away. I have too many. There's nothing connecting for me. Like at one point, I couldn't connect the Earth stuff to the space stuff, and I still can't completely connect
neither
it.
can I.
So
but
for
to
me,
be fair,
you've got the two different, stories, and okay, so we also got a copy of issue number 2.
I was about to bring that up. Yeah. And so that's also why I say I know the connections are going to start connecting, because to be fair, we've read the second issue. So, advance, but things start connecting. So if you read Blue Flame number 1 and you're a little thrown off and you're like, why aren't things connecting? Why does this matter when I want this? Kind of like I was. It starts connecting. It doesn't get completely connected because I think, Sergio, to what you were kind of saying, we have to let things build up, right? They can't give all the answers away. And so the first issue, I like to give things about 2 to 3 issues before I decide it's no good. Number 2 still keeps me interested enough that I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it a 3rd issue to really connect it, because that's all I'm looking for. I think this has a ton of potential. Like I've talked about with you, Serge, privately, like I think this has so much potential. It just needs to make those connections. And the art, I mean, look at those colors, like unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I know you guys are going on about like all the unanswered questions, though. But for me personally, I love that. I love things to unravel. The mysteries. You're not exactly sure how they connect, but I dig that. Right. I didn't feel at any point really like overly lost or confused.
So I think for me, it's like there's that one scene where you've got the couple, right? The couple on the bed, they're talking.
Yeah, thank you.
And then
that
later
threw me
on,
off.
And then later on, I had to question if that couple was like later shown up in hero outfits, because I'm like, I don't know who they are. There's no really names given to them, so it's like, are they actually any of the other characters that show up later in the story, or are they separate from everything else? Like that's what I meant by it didn't connect all that well in terms of we went from this stuff to this interpersonal story to another story, and I'm like, are any of these in any way the same character?
It's like a web that connects some things but doesn't connect others, or you think it's connect. So but I mean,
if you're worried, if that's your concern, then you might even be a little bit more frustrated, because issue number 2, they answer some questions, and then there's a whole whack load of other questions.
But at least they answer some. That's the thing. At least they're not completely leaving us hanging. At least there aren't things that don't make sense. And again, I'm talking a lot about how things confused me in the first issue. But again, it doesn't mean it wasn't a good issue. I don't have to understand everything to enjoy it. I don't have to read it and be like, that was the best thing ever to enjoy a comic. Again, it threw me off. Like Sergio, you remember I told you, like, I like some things at Serge. I don't know about this other stuff. And
if just for the art alone, guys, I would say this is probably Adam Gorham at his best. This is peak art, man. And then what's the colorist's name? I don't know his first name. Russell. I want to say maybe Mark Russell. But I mean, I said it when we did the advance preview way back, but this is just stunning. You can't say it any other way. It's beautiful, gorgeous, man. So it's a beautiful book to look at. I recommend it. I really enjoyed it.
I found that towards the end, it kind of gave me a Watchmen vibe, but I don't want anyone to misconstrue what I'm saying. By Watchmen vibe, to me, it felt like heroes in a real world.
Yeah, like, that's exactly what it is. It's heroes in the real world.
Yeah, like heroes in the real world in their downtime. It gave me that kind of aspect to Watchmen that I really enjoyed. But that I enjoyed that part of the book. I enjoyed the Nova type space stuff.
Yeah,
I like I like all the segments. We'll say I like all the segments as they are individually, but
connecting them is the hard part right now.
It makes the book seem kind of jumbled to me, because we're just jumping from different scenarios. Each scenario is perfect in its own. I like moments of all of them, but it's like having them all in one book may have been a misstep.
It to me, it felt like the pilot of a crazy sci-fi thriller TV show
Yeah.
where you watch it and you're like, I have no clue what happened, but I still want to know more. And you have a feeling it can be good. You're just not exactly sure where it's going yet. So for that alone, I would still, pick it up. Like I still would recommend picking this up because, again, it had me in the first half, lost me a bit in the middle, but by the end, I was like, dang, I still have to read issue 2 because I'm so curious because this still has such great potential. I don't think the first issue represents this series as a whole. I think it's just opening us to the world. And I think, like Steve often says about other things, I think as a trade, it's going to be amazing when it comes out.
Yeah.
So definitely pick it up, y'all.
Check out issue 2. Give it a reread. Check out issue 2. And then I'm definitely curious to see what you would say after issue 2.
After issue
and
2.
And I like that kind of Watchmen comparison. I didn't catch that at first, but now, thinking about it with issue 2, you get more of those kind of those vibes, right?
Yeah.
I like that. Like I said, I like the parts of the book. I just feel like maybe it could have been better written to be more cohesive.
So Ian's asking what the synopsis is. So you've got.
Who could say?
At this point, who can say?
I don't think it's spoiler to say. So you've got this kind of intergalactic the blue flame, right? He's out in space, and then basically he's humanity's representative as we're being put on trial by like another race, another species, right? So you've got that part of the storyline, and then the other part is where you have this crew of superheroes like on Earth in Milwaukee, set in Milwaukee, and it's much more grounded. No integral.
Well, the blue flame's a part of that too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's what got me at first because they don't specify a time difference between him being on that planet in space, that storyline, and then him being on Earth with this group of ragtag heroes. So that threw me off in terms of it didn't say there's a time jump, and so you kind of have to figure out as you're reading it. Oh, so these are in 2 different times and such. So you've got him, and on trial on a planet for all of humanity, basically. Yeah. And then we're seeing the build up to that. We're seeing how he got there, how this happened. We're seeing these other ragtag heroes. So if you're a huge fan of heroes that live in reality, ragtag heroes, your heroes on the street with flaws.
Yeah,
it's there. And Kurt Russell, sorry, Sergio butchered you.
Yeah, that's my bad. But so I took it as the Milwaukee stuff, the Earth stuff. It was before the intergalactic stuff, but it's not. It's not clear. They don't lay it out 100%.
Those 3 scenarios, they could all be happening at different timelines.
And we still don't know, right? That's the thing. We still don't. There's no for sure. So if anything, it kind of reminds me of. Like the time thing reminds me of Westworld, that TV show. I don't know if you guys have watched it. Absolutely phenomenal in terms of things are happening out of order. And so at first it throws you off because you're like, what the heck? But it keeps you still interested because things start connecting, but then things disconnect and it's crazy. So also if you're a fan of Westworld in terms of time differences and having to put timelines together and it making sense, Blue Flame does that.
Yeah.
So if you were thrown off by us going like, well, it confused us at first, it's not necessarily the worst confusion in terms of if you like Westworld and stuff like that, especially this first season or 2, this will make sense for you. You will really like it. So
it's cool. It's cool shit, man. It's good.
Yeah. Pick it up. It was a fun read. Like I said, we read issue 2. It got better for issue 2 with me. We'll talk about that closer to when it comes out.
Yeah.
Pick it up, y'all. I would love to hear other people's thoughts on this issue because I have a feeling other people are going to really, really love it. Other people will be even more confused. But it's solid.
It's one of those books that is going to be a lot of differing opinions for sure.
Absolutely.
So definitely curious to see on Wednesday what everybody thinks, and then maybe even like next Sunday, man. Shit, you never know. Maybe we'll touch on it again, just because even here among the 3 of us, it seems to be a little bit all over the place, right, in terms of what we're thinking.
So definitely pick it up. It is out this Wednesday. That's why we're talking about now. So pick up the Blue Flame. Hopefully your store has copies of it if you missed the final order cutoff. If not, let Sergio know. I'm sure he can find a way to connect you with his comic business,
for
he can
sure.
find a way to help.
I mean, yeah, you guys already know if you guys are needing any of the like incentive covers, or there's a dope 1 in 15 Iron Man homage cover, which is sick.
Okay.
That's pretty dope. But yeah, you guys need any of these books, hit me up. I'll be happy to help you connect with quality reading, man. For sure.
Thanks for the pitch. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pick that up, check it out. Let us know what you think. Again, I'm incredibly just interested to see how it gets received by others. So we're gonna do Copper Drop. Our favorite segment overall. Last week, Steve was very excited because he had to choose between two Marvels, and the Marvel he picked was Fantastic Four Life Story #1. So I'm very interested to see specifically how Steve feels about this. Sergio, I'm nervous about, but it's Marvel. Those of you that remember, Sergio doesn't read Marvel like ever. It's been forever. So this is probably the first Marvel he's read in a while.
Yeah.
So if it was a terrible pick, I'm sorry in advance for you, Serge. I hope it wasn't. But what were your thoughts?
I dig it, man. It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. So for sure, so the last Marvel book I read was Death of Wolverine, which was like, I don't know what, 7, 8, 9 years ago. So
2012.
2012, something like that, maybe. Yeah. So Fantastic Four, was looking forward to this. I knew like really nothing about what the story was about going into this, and I didn't realize until I got to the end of the book. I guess it's each issue is like by decade.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost, so is this like I believe it's like an alternate take on their history.
Yeah. So it's what if Fantastic Four's timeline acted the way real world does?
If they aged with the times.
I see.
So Fantastic Four were introduced, I guess in the 60s, and so first issue 60s. Next issue is them in the 70s,
80s, 90s, 2000s.
The whole linear progression through the ages.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's based off the similar approach Zdarsky did with Spider-Man Life Story. It's based off that idea.
Okay. So that's the premise. I liked it. I mean, they didn't really switch. I mean, it's not a completely different origin story. It's a lot of the same.
Yeah, a lot of so basically the Life Story format is a lot of the stuff that happens in the comic. They'll find a way to generally allude to it or have it happen in the Life Story, but in the timeline of
real world events.
Yeah, so like in Spider-Man Life Story, like the Clone Saga happened in the 90s. So in the 90s book of the Spider-Man Life Story, he's dealing with a clone saga type event, clone saga, where it's alluding to, or it could even be like exactly similar to what happened in the comics, but in the Life Story timeline where he's aged up, he's older, he's dealing with other things. So a lot of the stuff that's happening in Life Story, it will be pulled from the main 616, but it'll happen to them when it happened to them in the comics, like when it was released in the comics, right?
So for me, not being familiar with the current universe, is easy to get into. Is an easy read. It's pretty straightforward. The characters are how I remember them to be in terms of their personality, their interactions with each other, what the Fantastic is about, right? Their struggles. The Thing is he's constantly like, shit, what have I become, right? And he's trying to get back to his his human form. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a good read.
What did you think of the artwork?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask too.
The artwork
You're an art guy.
Is like it's very superhero-y, which it's funny that I was reading this, and I think reading this helped me to realize how my personal taste for art has moved away from like the Marvel DC style, superhero style, and more something like a Martin Simmons, Department of Truth, or Blue and Green was dope too, or Something Is Killing the Children. But the art is good. It's not bad by any means. I enjoy it. It's vibrant. It's colorful. classic.
So
That was my first take on it. Is how vibrant it is.
Yeah,
Like it felt like it was published by Boom or something.
Mhm,
I love this artwork because
mhm.
a lot of Marvel books sometimes can be hit or miss with the art. Sometimes it can be too cartoony. Other times, like the coloring can be kind of off. I feel like this book had just perfect in terms of the artwork. Like it worked
was
with
cool.
the theme of it.
Yeah.
It felt hopeful in parts where you needed it to, and just the vibrant coloring of it just it brought out so much of what the Fantastic Four kind of needs in a book.
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like if you're not a big fan of Fantastic Four, or you were, but then current stuff has kind of got you down. I know Fantastic Four haven't had a really solid movie yet. Comic, I know a lot of fans aren't a fan of the current Fantastic Four continuity for their reasons. This is a good solid just step in the right direction, I think, in terms of just remembering what's good about the Fantastic Four and what makes them them. This issue didn't blow me away by any means, because I actually agree with you, Sergio. It's a lot of just a similar origin, just a couple of different viewpoints, a couple of different things added in, right? They're going to come into the next couple of issues of this line.
Yeah.
But it just reminded me that, hey, this is what the Fantastic Four is. It kind of put back together the foundation they needed.
Yeah.
So it didn't blow me away by any measure in terms of like, wow, this is brand new or crazy, but it built a foundation which is needed. It kind of, not in the same way, but it kind of reminded me of why Tom Taylor's Nightwing run is so important right now. Tom Taylor's Nightwing run isn't the best plot on the planet. It's not the best anything, but what he's doing with that line is building a foundation again for Dick Grayson and reminding us who he is, which is so important for that right now. And so in this case, with Fantastic Four, I feel like this is kind of just, again, we'll see how the issues go in terms of the twists and all that they add with the life story, but I like it just rebuilding the foundation for the Fantastic Four and, making me go like, yes, this is why they're the first family. Yes, this is why I kind of care, even if I'm not, because I've never been the biggest fan of Fantastic Four, but I respect them so much for what they are. So it was a solid read for me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good read. Solid.
I mean, I guess the bigger question. Yeah, the bigger question is,
are you guys like?
Is it a cop?
Yeah. Of me, I'm gonna go. Okay, so.
Would you pick up the next issue, Serge? Yeah, I think that's the question. Would you get issue 2?
I'm going to, spend my hard-earned cash. Am I invested enough to want to continue the series? Listen, I'm gonna say drop, but I'm gonna kind of put an asterisk with it. Right. It's just if I'm gonna get into it didn't I guess captivate me if I'm gonna continue to read a Marvel book or to get back into that universe. I want something maybe brand new that I haven't read before. This seems a little bit kind of rehashed. I mean, I like what they're kind of doing through the decades and stuff.
See, if you had read Spider-Man Life Story, that's not the case, because shit's gonna hit the fan the next couple issues. It's gonna they're gonna tear it up.
Yeah,
like Spider-Man Life Story hit the fan after the first issue, and that's the same thing that's gonna happen here because they're aging through the decades. And with Spider-Man Life Story, I'm interested to see how they're gonna age them through the decades, because Spider-Man, it was clones. He had there was all this cloning thing going on. So for how he basically lived so long and why he didn't age as rapidly as he could, even though he does age in it. Now I'm like, well, what the heck? Like, are they just going to clone these guys? Like, what other approach can they take? So I'm entirely fascinated by what they're going to do.
Yeah, so it's all based upon what happened in Fantastic Four in their own books. So a lot of the stuff they deal with is it's pretty cosmic stuff. Like,
yeah,
with Galactics at one point. How are they going to deal with that?
Right, and that's the thing is,
how do they deal with Silver Surfer? How do they deal with
yeah, they're not even in yet.
Annihilation. Like the Annihilators come in the 2000s, right? Like Hickman's whole Annihilation stuff.
Yep.
Like Johnny Storm, like Death of Johnny Storm. How does all of that kind of fit into this life story narrative? Are they going to make it to those generations, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was cool as fuck to see Galactus again. To open up that page and then you see, this big.
Yeah. To be fair, that was actually my biggest criticism of this issue was the one page Galactus was on and how he he basically takes the whole "I'm a villain just to be a villain" approach. I'm like, that's not who he is as a villain. Like the line he says, I'm like, no. He's just hungry. Like, and this isn't a spoiler because Galactus, that's his thing as a villain. That's why Stan Lee, I think Stan Lee created him with somebody else. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, he was created to be a different villain in terms of he's not a villain because he's like, haha, let me rule the world or kill everybody. He's just fucking starving. That's his thing. He literally can't eat enough planets.
Power of worlds.
And then with that one page in it where they completely, that one line he has, they completely changed the villain approach for me. And I was like,
okay,
that's so hard because I love Galactus so much. And you just kind of,
Right. So Sergio's a drop. Lauren,
Yep.
are you a drop for this?
Oh, you see, that's the thing. Because now I'm like, I want to see where it goes next. Like, because again, we're talking about all these other things where it's like, oh, it could go somewhere, and there could be some cool stuff, and I just don't know if the writing's gonna go the way I want it to. I mean, not even just like what I want to happen, but in terms of like, well, is it going to be solid? It's hard.
I feel like
final answer, Lauren. Final answer. You need a final answer.
I mean, I feel like if you're not a hard cop on it, then you're lowercase drop. Like if you're not all for picking up that other one, maybe you're a drop.
To be fair, I listened to my gut, and honestly, if it was drop, I'd be telling you it's drop, but my gut's telling me to cop the second issue at least, so I'm gonna say cop. I'm gonna get the second issue.
Cool.
Okay.
So,
all right, Steve, it's boiled down to you, man.
It does, yeah. So the case with the life story stuff is the same way with Spider-Man. I think it reads better as a completed package. I think it does. Being able to go from chapter to chapter to chapter and have it, read all one story.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot that could be forgotten when you pick it up monthly as a monthly thing. I love the life story format. I don't necessarily like it in terms of it coming out as individual issues. Like I feel like it was just like a graphic novel. Like boom, Fantastic Four life story, the full thing as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be a better read. I think for that reason, I think I'm a drop. I love it.
Okay.
Honestly, I think once it's all said and done, pick it up.
Yeah.
Because again, life story, Spider-Man life story in the format, I love the idea of it. I loved what Spider-Man life story did, but I read it as a whole package. I didn't have the huge breaks in between.
Yeah, I will say, I read it as a whole package too. I read it in trade format. So that's it, y'all.
It wasn't an easy drop though, guys. For me, honestly, like I'm very close to like just because it's Fantastic Four, it was cool, it's an easy read. But if I had to make a hard choice, which I am, so
I'm gonna get the second issue, and if it's really good, next week y'all get hear from me. Y'all will hear. But yeah, I agree with you.
Joey's saying what I'm saying too. Big Two need to drop more OGN books.
Yeah,
I need just like Marvel's done a few. They've done Spider-Man. What was it called? Spider-Man Family Issues or Family. It was something like that. Dealt with the Kingpin and it introduced Teresa Parker. They had one for X-Men called what was it? X-Men No More Humans. I believe that was an OGN. There was also Rage of Ultron. So Marvel's dipped their toes in the OGN type of stories. I don't know why they don't do more. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So before removal, I just want to give a shout out to my boy. What's going on, Papito? I'm glad to see you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think this is his first time watching live. I've been giving him a hard time, so my youngest.
Well, it worked. Good deal.
Yeah. What do we have next, man?
So with that said, House of Nerd, we're gonna drop it. So if you didn't pick it up, drop it. I think a small caveat might be, pick up the trade when it comes out, as long as nothing horrible happens these next couple of issues, or we hear otherwise, get it as a trade, they'll probably be a better read regardless. And I stand by that as well.
If you guys decide to, Steve, have it on the TO Comic Book Club,
no, definitely. When it's said and done,
I'll definitely pick it up in trade.
Yeah. Oh, we have a quick question before we move on. I like this question from Oscar. What other character do you think could benefit from the life story format? Oh, okay. I just had one. I haven't thought it through.
Cyclops.
Oh, okay, but see, see, we both were X-Men.
60s, right? He just hit though.
How about Storm? Excuse you.
Yeah, she'd be good too. She'd be good.
Oh, Storms would be so good. That's what Marvel should be doing with her. Give her a life story.
But I mean, for me, like the life story format works with a character that was introduced way earlier than any other character, right? Storm was introduced in the 80s with Giant Size.
70s.
No,
70s?
no,
Okay,
it got to be
so-
earlier than that, man. Yeah.
Giant Size X-Men #1. She was soon enough. You can do a life story with her easily.
You could, for sure. She's got a lot that happened to her, right? Even like the whole wedding with Black Panther and the divorce and all that stuff. She'd be a great character.
Okay, but that's also way later. You don't even know a thing about Storm from the early days, do you? Like, I'm already Steve. Time to get educated.
I would say
I'd like to see Superman through the years.
Yeah.
I think for me that was the first one that came to mind. I'd love to see him age, and
you can do a Superman or Batman. I mean, both of those would sell if DC could do it without infringing on Marvel's life story format. That's the problem because they're DC.
Ian's agreeing with me. Cyclops would be great.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can do any of the original X-Men, like literally, because they're so old, in terms of how long they've been around. So, yeah,
Magneto would be actually really.
Oh, that would be good. That's a great choice.
Magneto's already old as fuck, so like, I mean, you're gonna get like 2 decades out of him.
You have to start
when he starts younger.
You have to start with
true.
camp, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're gonna drop the first issue of Fantastic Four life story, and we're gonna figure out what we're gonna cop this week and talk about next week on the show. And I'm gonna decide what we're picking, and Steve and Sergio get to try to convince me.
Steve, you want to go first, bro?
I'll go first, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll go first. My pick that we should all read next week is a little story called Cherry Blackbird. Okay, so it's another Black Caravan. I know the last Black Caravan pick I did, Broken Souls Ballad, wasn't entirely favorable by everybody, so maybe this one will be a little bit different. The cover has me sold. Okay, the cover has me sold, right? You've got this chick in a metal band with Satan pentagram behind her. So, and you got track 1, Drug Satan Death Witch. I'm pulling a Sergio right now and just telling you what you can all see.
I mean, to be fair, so this is like the second music thing you've picked.
Yeah, kind of. The synopsis of it, though, is what kind of sold me. So basically, there's a deal with the devil kind of gone awry. So the lead singer of this, I think there must be some sort of deal with the devil in terms of her soul, and Satan's coming to collect. There's a caveat, though. She could have her soul back if she could do other things for him. So it's that type of story. Her soul is on the line. Her life is on the line. There's a debt that needs to be owed. There are things that she could do to make it so that she keeps herself and her soul and her life. But that's generally the gist of the summary.
What are the things she's doing? Like,
we don't know. Got to read.
I don't like that bet. I don't like. I'm afraid there are gonna be things I'll be like, I don't know about that. So okay, but the cover I really do like, and the rocker vibe.
That's cool. Yeah,
it's 18 plus. So there's either gonna be nudity or gore or both.
Both.
Maybe there'll be dong. We got it. Free the dong.
This is a family show, bro. Come on now.
Don't make me pull out my Batman Damn #1. That's the one that actually wasn't censored. Glorious. Love it for me.
Okay. That's my pick. Cherry Blackbird #1.
I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet. My pick is for sure.
Do you ever talk about long Surge?
Don't you keep it short and sweet?
Hey, you just gotta get to the point. Made in Korea #1. It's from Image Comics. So here, let me read you the synopsis here. For Jesse, the world's first true AI system, growing up means learning to think outside the box. This exciting new 6-issue miniseries will redefine what it means to be a family in an age when biological parenthood is no longer a reality. So it looks like you got some AI involved in a future where
some more sci-fi. It sounds like
it's Brand New World.
Yeah, where parents are able to have like kids or something. Steve, I'm trying to talk to you, please, buddy. Okay, my man. I know you're all for a Cherry Blackbird, but this is the one here. This is the one. I think Image is putting out good content, man. So this seems like it's going to be another good one, something different, I think. And it's only 6 issues. So I think if we go with number 1, it's not a big commitment. Steve's might have been looks like an ongoing. So the commitment is a lot bigger for yours, Steve. I'm saying let's just do like a little 6 issue, maybe something easy, AI, maybe sci-fi-ish. Let's check it out, man. Let's read this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy pick for me.
Well, I already know.
Right? Pentagrams, heavy metal bands.
Oh man, I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking at what y'all are saying too, and I think a lot of y'all are right. That was my thought as I was looking. Yeah, I mean, you sold me on the cover and the AI and the sci-fi and. To be fair, if I'm very real, it sounds like a safer bet in terms of the quality I will expect versus Cherry Blackbird. I have no idea what quality to expect from that.
But it's it could be really good.
But the last one was okay, but it left something desired. Not saying me and Korea won't, obviously, but I think it's a safer bet, and I'm feeling the safer bet today. So I'm going to go with Made in Korea. We're going to pick that up this week from Image. I am down to read that.
I love it. Love it. It's okay, Steve. We'll get you next time, buddy.
It happens.
It happens.
And you lose some. If it's wrong, then it's your fault. I'm okay with it.
I'll take it.
Like, if we all consider it a drop next week, and we're just like,
I'll take the L. It's going to be a W, though.
We've ever read.
Come on, man.
It's on you, and I'm okay with that.
My taste is impeccable, buddy. What are you going on about, bro?
All right, so yeah, we're gonna pick up Made in Korea next week from Image Comics for a copper drop, and let y'all know if it's worth the cup.
Yeah,
hopefully it will be. It sounds good. Yeah. I like the cover. It had the cover to me. The art style had Alita feels to me. And I've never read Alita. I've only seen the movie Alita Battle Angel, but I loved that film. Like I loved it. So that definitely helped me in my decision, just because I personally related it to that, even if it's not.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm unfamiliar with like any of the creators on that book.
Same.
For me, it's always exciting to read someone new and new art. So yeah, hopefully we'll decide it'll be a cop for next week. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, and everybody in the audience, read along with us, man. If you can.
Pick it up. Made in Korea
#1, and then you guys can let me know how dope my picks are as usual.
Give Sergio an ego boost. He needs it.
100%. 100%.
All right, that's not the end of the episode, though, right?
Yes, we have a special announcement right before we head out. Don't worry. I think it was Ian in the chat was saying he's up late, like past 1 a.m. Thank you so much for sticking around through our shenanigans. We really appreciate it. Everybody else that's doing similar things. Thank you.
For sure.
We're almost done. I promise. We love having you guys in our chat. Our surprise, next week, we have another guest. Last one for a while, so don't worry. I know a lot of you really like our week in review and stuff, our regular format. I know you've been missing it. We have one more guest coming on next week, and after that, we're going to take a break, so we'll get back to our regular format and such. So don't worry. I appreciate y'all hanging in there. Sergio, who we have next week? I know I'm excited, but you're really itching, so I'm just going to let you have it.
Thank you. Guys, next Sunday, live on the House of Nerd Show, we have the one, the only, Rodney Barnes. Okay,
very excited.
Writer of Lando. He's got a whole whack of books. You guys know, man. The House of Nerd crew, big fans of Philadelphia, man. Super excited about this one. I'm pumped, as I know our Steve and Lauren, man. We've been.
Bro, I'm so hype, and
this one's been in the works for some time too. So I just been like, they've had to hold me back from like, yo, don't say anything. Let me give it a little teaser, a little taste. But excited to announce it, man. And I think probably myself, and Lauren are gonna be fighting over.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be bad. Like
You know,
Sergio's like a kid, and I may not look like it, but like, let me tell you, I need to go get some fake fangs to put in my mouth the day of the show. I need to dress up. I have to show up, and Philadelphia is back this Wednesday, guys. Like,
Man.
we're so excited to have him back the week it comes out, and have him talk about it because, man, we've been a little starved for content, other than some covers here and there. We've all been missing Philadelphia. I know I have. I know Sergio has. And it's back in full force, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about next week. So those of you, if you don't read Philadelphia yet, you need to fix that ASAP. Like, that's your goal this week. That is your homework. Read Philadelphia, catch up, get on the same page, because we're gonna be talking about it. Rodney is phenomenal. He's always so great on Twitter with his fans. Him and Sean Alexander, the artists, are really a big part of the reason why I even got in the comic community, and the Philadelphia fans, because they're so active with their fans. So very excited for him to come on, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great time.
Right, man. The Philadelphia fan community on Twitter is dope, is amazing. So we're excited to hopefully have everybody come out and watch us. And not only Philadelphia, but we're gonna talk about he's got that new joint coming out with.
Joey mentioned it in the chat. I was gonna say, their new imprint with their own line. Yeah, so we're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about Rodney. Rodney's working on a lot of things. He always is. He's never not busy.
What is the new imprint? Is Zombie Loves Comics, or is it something like that?
Zombie Love LLC. I'll double check to make sure we can plug that right. Sorry, guys. We'll make sure to plug it correctly. Sorry, Rodney. We'll fix it. We'll make sure we plug it correctly. But tune in, guys. Yes.
That's Philadelphia.
Yes.
I mean, this is a guy he was a writer, I think, / producer on the Oscars show recently. I mean, like, that's big time, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's on Wu-Tang American Saga. A bunch of TV shows back in the day. So I mean, his
included. Yeah.
His resume is like it's crazy, man. So it'll be an hour filled with a lot of interesting stuff, and super hyped for this one, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Issue 13 is coming out on Wednesday. And if you haven't read Philadelphia yet, Volume 1 and Volume 2, they're already out. The trades are out.
Yeah, Volume 1, Image does a thing where their first trades for like lines are like $10. So the first volume is $10 for that many issues, for 6 issues. Yeah. I mean, you can't beat that. So even just give the first volume a shot. But so we will be here next Sunday with Mr. Rodney Barnes. And then after that week, we will be going back to our normal week in review and second segment, things like that. I'm sure you guys have been missing the second segment games. I know how much you guys like that. So we're getting back to that soon. But we're super hyped to have Rodney on, taking time out of his busy schedule to come on our tiny show. Make sure you guys.
I just want to say, like, I'm not even going to be humble. We're bringing the fucking heat, man. We got Ram V first, and then we got Julio Anta, and now Rodney Barnes, man. So, we're trying to bring, the best creators out there right now for you guys, and
and they're gracious enough to want to come on. And just so you know, this isn't the end of guest appearances forever. I promise. We're just gonna take a break, but we will have more guest appearances in the future. Like, wink, wink.
And we will. We got some other creators booked already, which.
Sergio, you need to be quiet. You're getting too excited. Yeah. You're cut off. Cut off. Where's the buzzer? Anyways, I'm gonna cut Sergio off. But so we'll see you guys next week. We didn't get around to it because I kind of forgot, so it's mostly my fault. But TO Comic Book Club did happen this week. Steve, what? Just real quick, what did you read?
Sure, man.
Real quick, it was mentioned in the chat. Bring Dan Waters. That's interesting because we read Coffin Bound Volume 1 this weekend by Dan Waters.
Yeah. Okay. So they read that. If we need to, we'll talk about that real quick at the start of the show next week. If Steve, you want to bring that up again, but
I want my man to plug the vote, the poll.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So next week's book has not been chosen yet. There's a poll going on in the Discord. Please go on Twitter at TO Comic Book Club. There you'll find the Discord link. Join the Discord and also do the poll vote. you can help decide what book we read next. Is it Blue and Green? Is it Spider-Gwen? Or is it Supergirl being super? It's
Yeah,
up to
I'm still mad you put two books I want to read next to each other. I'm still mad. And I know I won't win. Like it's fine though. Anyways. Yeah, so definitely
I need
check that up
everybody to go and vote for Blue and Green. Sorry, Lauren, to interrupt, but we need to reread that.
Sergio, didn't I cut you off? You're
I gotta throw that in there, man. We're gonna check it out.
Yeah, Blue and Green. We talked about it with Ramsey. It's absolutely amazing. There's not a bad read there. There's not a bad read. So whatever gets picked is gonna be great. Yeah, check it out. TO Comic Book Club on Twitter. Go to the Discord. They're always there, making it lively and all that great stuff. But yeah, that's the show, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. I know we were a little more all over the place this episode, but thanks for hanging in there. We'll be back next Sunday at 11. Tomorrow, don't forget, we will be posting our weekend review video for you guys. So feel free. We'll post on the Twitter. Feel free to watch it whenever you get a chance. We'd love for you to still comment on the video. It won't be live, but we want you to comment. Let us know what your picks were for a week. Let us know what you thought of yours. We still want to have these conversations with you guys. They are one of my favorite parts personally of doing our show is talking with you guys about the current books and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sergio, where can we find you on the interwebs?
You guys can find me on Twitter at insert name INC, and on Instagram at insert name comics. Again, always happy to help people connect with good quality books. If you need anything, shoot me a message, guys. Thank you.
Sweet Steve, where can we find you and your TO Comic Book Club?
You can find me Twitter at Stovepost, and on Twitter you can also find at TO Comic Book Club. Come check us out. There are no borders. We're on Discord. It's for anybody, whether you're associated with Toronto or not. It's for everyone.
Yeah,
awesome.
And thank you guys, everybody, again in the chats. Always making it live, for coming through and waking up with us every Sunday morning, man. I appreciate it.
It makes taking away our one day to sleep and worth it. So.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or really great. The response.
Or for some people, Ian in Japan, he's going to sleep. He's going
to sleep.
Man.
Right. Hey, I hope this was a good lullaby. I probably wasn't, but I hope it was. Ian, we really love having you here. The rest of y'all, thank you so much. Yeah. Joey, L, Ruben, good to see you. Dragon Ranger. I know Tara was here earlier. All that cool stuff. You can find me on Twitter at friendlynbhdbi as in bye, and on Instagram at friendly neighborhood bye. I think that's that one. Anyways, check us out on Twitter at the House of Nerd Show, and we will see y'all later. Thanks again, guys.